Where would you say we are in terms of the market? Are we getting close to the bottom? Are you feeling the bottom from a litigation perspective, from an appraisal perspective?
Well,
What's sort of the sense you're getting?
Well, in 2004, I gave a presentation before the Urban Land Institute, and the question, the headlines in that was the boom of Miami and where we were. And we saw so much activity occur in 2004. We stated that the market topped off in the second quarter of 2004.
Okay.
And we had prices almost doubled, more than doubled from 2000 to 2005. And we call it the hyperbole period. And last summer, I then forecasted that the market bottomed out. Mm-hmm. Which meant that we're going to have increased volume of sales, but prices are still going to roll back to prices prior to the 2004 level.
Which is in fact what we're seeing.
Correct.
We're seeing that sales by quantity continue to increase and spike in some cases, correct. And we're seeing prices stay level, if not fall off.
Yeah, the market started to decline tremendously after August of 2007. Mm-hmm. That's when it was realized, when many of the hedge funds and banks were calling their notes, and the subprime mortgage industry started to get in trouble. And then the hiatus of that was in September of 2008, when Lehman Brothers went under and several other major lending institutions caused a freeze on capital. And that freeze on capital is hopefully is working itself out with the new president's programs as we see today.
So we're effectively in the bleed the market out system. I mean, a process at that point. Is that, I mean, with the lack of financing and credit available?
We're in the adjustment period. The capital is there, but the regulations are such that lenders are unable to lend, and mm-hmm. they're trying to change the rules to make it more flexible. And we have to get money back in the system. I've always used the adage, the market goes as the money flows. I've also said that the market went as improved money was lent and spent.
Sure.
That's what's keeping us busy in the dispute resolution industry right now. We're pretty busy in that regard.
In terms of the dispute resolution, what you're brought in to analyze and try to help everyone understand what the real value is today, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, in several cases are in bankruptcy court. Mm-hmm. When the debtor goes into bankruptcy, it depends on who our client is. In most cases recently is the creditors.
I see.
And the judge in that case needs to adjudicate what the property values really are.
Okay.
And, that's what we've done. Contract disputes are heavily involved in that as well. Mm-hmm. Parties break up their partnerships and they need valuation in that regard as well.
Now, when you're talking about valuations, one of the things that I always, in terms of what I understand, it used to be when there were comparables, and let's just say it on a residential side, even an individual unit by unit sale, it was typically about 6 months or so in terms of comparables. Transactions that had closed is always what I heard. And more recently, we're hearing an institution will not go out more than 90 days based on an appraisal, simply because the market's changing so regularly, or there's so much volatility. Is that true or false, or what's been your experience?
Well, the experience we're seeing this round is the predatory lending that took place in refinancing, and then the resale market. A lot of fraudulent transactions occurred, so to ferret out the difference between a real sale mm-hmm. To a fraudulent sale is the most difficult challenge that the appraisers have. But it's not necessarily the sale, it's called the comparison sales approach. There's three approaches to value. There's the cost mm-hmm. Summation approach, and then there's the income capitalization approach. So we're starting to see some changes when we do commercial properties as far as what sustainable rents are and what's the true capitalization rate or discount rate that's used in valuation of commercial properties.
I was reading a story recently where the Miami-Dade property appraiser, this is the person that sets effectively the tax assessment for the county, was estimating that based on 2008, because it's in arrears, based on 2008 there could be between a 20 and 40% decrease in property values from an assessment perspective. How does that sort of compare with what you're seeing?
I don't see that happening as much. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. You're going to have certain pockets in the area that was highly inflated, mm-hmm. especially in the lower income areas as well, or non-feasible developments that were manipulated with prices. Obviously those are going to be impacted by that number. But on an overall basis, it's hard. You have to go in the sub-market areas. So actually the prices have declined in certain areas and rolled back up to 20–25% in some areas because it over doubled mm-hmm. During the period of 2000 to 2005. There are some sub-market areas where we have sustainable values right at this point, especially in single-family homes, Car Gables in particular, Coconut Grove, certain sections of Miami Beach as well.
And when you talk about certain sections, what about on the product side? What are you seeing in terms of multi-housing, condominiums, and/or single-family? Any kind of assessments you can make right now in terms of the state of the market? Are they all operating parallel in terms of recovery or stabilization, or what's sort of your perspective on that?
Well, on an overall basis, we overbuilt the condominium market, obviously, especially in the urban core area.
Yes.
And that'll recover depending on people moving through the urban core area and our population growth. There are some concerns with employment. But Miami-Dade County's employment is only 6.8% as compared to other regions of the state and the nation. That's the challenge, is the high-rise condominiums at this point in time. A lot of developers are coming up with some new adages called rent-to-buy. We saw that happen in previous cycles as well. And the single-family housing market is a challenge for lenders that lend on those properties because a lot of those are older homes that sometimes a lot of maintenance is required. And destruction has taken place in those properties, and that's hurt the neighborhoods. So I don't necessarily agree with the assessor's comment on a 40% decline, unless they were overassessed. I don't believe so.
I see.
On an overall basis.
And then, okay, so condominiums, you feel as if really took a hit, single family took a hit, but not maybe to the same extent? Is that what I'm sort of hearing?
Used single family took the biggest hit.
Used single family, not necessarily the brand new product that was built by the Lennars of the world.
No, they sustained themselves, but they did have their overbuilding as well to a degree in some subdivisions. The major overbuilding took place in the high-rise condominium market. In certain sub-market areas, in certain other sub-market areas, we didn't have that problem.
Sure.
So you have to go to neighborhood by neighborhood to assess how bad it is or how good it is in those areas.
And obviously, greater downtown Miami is probably one of the areas where there was tremendous overbuilding. I mean, maybe like a Sunny Isles Beach as well, but not necessarily a South Beach, unless you kind of see it different. Was South Beach overbuilt from a high-rise perspective?
Not necessarily. South Beach was in the beginning of the boom period. The boom. Artificial price increases started in 2002, and then they escalated exponentially through to 2005. The market topped off, we said, in 2004, but wasn't realized till the end of 2005. It was being realized in 2006. And as we got into 2007, we saw a lot of hedge funds get in trouble in the subprime mortgage market, which is really the secondary market of resale housing, got in trouble. And then it wasn't until after August of 2007 when the market started to tumble. I call that the avalanche, growing to the end of 2008 until we started to hopefully resolve the issues. And it's a worldwide problem today.
Sure.